You're now tuned in to the Desire to Trade podcast, a show where we bring you the best figures of the trading world and teach you how you can become a successful trader. This is your host, Etienne Crete.
Hey, what's up, traders? It's Kat here from the Desire to Trade. Welcome to episode 46 of the Desire to Trade podcast. Now, if you've been listening to last week's episode, you probably have a trading plan by now. Last week was all about preparing your trading plan and knowing how to set up everything on one page. If you didn't listen to this show last week, make sure you check it out, because that's going to help. By now, you probably know what's my take on day trading. I find it interesting, but I'm not actively day trading. It's something that I think is great, but I just don't have the time to do it. But my guest this week is really into day trading. It's going to be actually the first woman on the Desire to Trade podcast, so I'm pretty happy about that. It's really interesting to see that both men and women are involved into trading and are passionate about it. You'll see that my guest this week combines day trading with price action. So that makes it much easier to trade and much easier to understand. Because so many people I see have a lot of indicators when they're trying to day trade. But using only price action is totally possible. And my guest will show it to you today. Her name is Kim Krompass, and she runs the Price Action Trader Institute. So we'll go on with the interview, and I'll see you back at the end with the takeaways. So tell us, what is one quote that inspires you?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, because I do have a quote, and it just might take me a minute, so bear with me. It's from Debbie Ford, and it says, "To live a life of excellence, you will have to take risks. You will have to step into new territory and climb new mountains. If you're up to something that's as big as you are, it's going to be scary. If it feels perfectly safe, you are probably underachieving. To leave your mark in the world, you will have to stand someplace you've never been willing to stand before, and you will have to have the courage to aspire to excellence."
Wow, that's setting up the tone for the interview. I love it. Perfect. So tell us what you're doing these days.
Well, I currently run a membership for currency traders, Forex traders, and we do trade planning 3 mornings a week for New York session traders. I lead that. And then I have a guy, one of my students, who went through a mentorship with me, and he runs our London session trade planning group. So, because we have obviously traders who trade both New York and London. I happen to specialize in the New York session. And so I mentor traders. We have a teaching webinar that we do in addition to the planning sessions that we offer each week. And I love what I do. I love working with traders.
Yeah, and you're of course trading as well, right? Full time.
Absolutely. Yeah, in fact, many people have seen me on Twitter. I think I have over, 46,000 tweets now, giving my live market commentary during the week, at least Monday through Thursday, sometimes just Tuesday through Thursday. But I'm live in the markets. I post my trades on Twitter, so people can see my trades, and my membership can also see my trades on Twitter as well.
Yeah, I know you're very active on social media. I noticed that in the past. That's awesome. Now we'll go back a little bit in the time, and I want you to tell us how you started to trade exactly.
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's been a long journey. I actually started trading, this is going to date me, about 16 years ago. I had just retired from a company that I co-founded with a handful of other CPAs. I'm a CPA. I'm licensed in California. I don't practice, though, obviously, anymore. I'm a full-time trader. But as a CPA, I was always interested in the markets and, of course, in money. So I began trading equities and futures. And then I moved into trading options, which I really did not like or enjoy because it was just too complex for what I was looking for. And I eventually landed in the currency markets back in 2005. So that began my journey 2005. So for about the last 11 years, I've been in the currency markets. I've I've specialized in the New York trading session. I always promoted when other people were saying you had to trade London session to be successful. I decided I was going to take a different tack on that because living here in the US, I believe that you can't be a really good trader in the different time zones because of when the London session occurs. So on the East Coast, you're either waking up in the middle of the night when you should be sleeping, or here, like us in California or the West Coast, we have to wake up right before midnight. And that will take its toll. It took its toll on me. And that's how I ended up specializing in the New York session.
And how was the learning process?
Difficult. Okay. There were moments, there was a big moment when I just almost threw the towel in on the whole endeavor, to be quite honest. But I started out like most currency traders, or most of your listeners probably. I took some courses. I tried to trade using indicators, patterns, candlesticks, all of the things that I now call distractions. And in the early days, back in 2005, the Forex markets moved like turtles, extremely slow paced, nothing like we see today, nothing at all like we see today. Today, it's very different. And it's become very different since the financial crisis in the US. That was a turning point for me. Up to that point, I had made millions, and I essentially lost a lot of money, close to $1 million, in not only trading, but in some investments, poor investments that I had made. And I had to reel myself back in. I stopped trading for several months. I took a deep look at who I was and what I wanted and how I was trading, and I re-engineered completely. I got rid of all of my indicators. I threw out all my trading books and said, no more. I'm just going to become a price trader. So thus the name of my company, Price Action Traders Institute. All we do, the only indicator we use, if you have to call it an indicator, would be price.
This is interesting because I see a lot of people who start with complicating things and then they get to much simpler afterward. Yeah.
Yeah, less is more. Absolutely.
Now, I want to ask you, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what is your trading style today?
Well, today it's completely, I guess you would call it a day trader. So I go in the market and then I'm flat before the end of the New York session. And that's something that I mentor and teach in my group, is that we want to go in the market and we want to get out of the market before the session ends. And the reason is because the last several years, social media has really changed the pace at which news travels around the world. And so we've seen brokers go bust. We've seen things like the Swiss National Bank last year when they did what they did and people woke up to decimated accounts. Some brokers even went under. So I feel that there is a substantial risk by holding trades overnight, unless you are a big bank or an institutional trader or a hedge fund trader. So you've got big money behind you. But for the at-home retail level trader, which is who I work with mainly, it's too risky. It's too risky to leave your money in with one broker, and it's too risky to have positions open overnight. And that's, in my opinion, and based on my experience in the markets. So day trader, get flat the end of the day. We take extremely small losses. Our losses are from 8 to 12 pips max, which is completely different than the way I was taught and the way a lot of traders actually still trade today, with wide stops and sometimes removing stops, not trading with stops, which I just think is beyond risky. So that would summarize it. Day trader, get flat the end of the session, small stops, be able to move in and out of the market as the market moves.
Would you say that it is dependent also on your personality, or did you choose the trading style only because of the risk of holding overnight?
I chose it because of the risk, not personality, because I'm a little bit different in my thinking. I was never a day trader before this. In fact, I thought at one point early, back in my career that it was a personality-based thing. And then I realized it's not a personality-based thing. It's a risk tolerance thing. It's a risk management thing. And that's where I diverge from a lot of trainers or other educators, is that I believe that the style of trading, it's not a personality thing. You have to be able to understand the risk. The risk is the most important thing, besides obviously your own psychology, because psychology is what will determine your success as a trader. But if you don't put risk in front of everything you do as a trader, you will eventually experience some kind of devastation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, totally right.
It's just a matter of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. It's true. The thing I see a lot with day traders is that sometimes you have to spend more time trading, right? So how much time in a day do you spend trading?
Well, I've heard that comment before, and I would, again, diverge from that comment simply because I spend trading maybe 3 hours a morning, and then I'm done. So I do my trade planning sessions with the membership at 6 a.m. California, and it takes us 30 minutes or less most mornings. So we're ready for the New York equities open. We begin trading, unless we trade at 5:30 when there's a news event, which, obviously there are those days. So, but most of us, we're done. I'm done by 9 a.m. California. 9:30 max, maybe. So that's noon, 12:30 on the East Coast. So when people say, day traders have to spend a lot of time, yes, if you consider focused 2 to 3 hours, and some mornings we're out and done in 45 minutes. It just depends on the moves. So when I look at that and I think, no, not really. I mean, if you want to make money, you have to put in some time.
Yeah.
So when people say it takes a lot of time, not really. 3 hours max. And most mornings, it's a lot less. So if you do that 3 days a week, or maybe even 4, I don't recommend trading 5 days a week. I think traders should step away. But if you trade 4 days, let's say you do 4 days a week, and let's say worst case scenario, you spend 4 hours. Okay, that's 16 hours. That's still less than most people spend at a full-time job.
Yeah, that's totally right. Yeah.
Right? And you have the potential to make a lot of money if you are skilled at this. And then you've got the other side where people are holding on to positions. They say they're long-term traders, but I guarantee you, they are looking at those trades. So their mind's always distracted. They're always wondering in the back of the mind, how's that trade doing? Has it hit my 150 pip stop yet?
This is a really good point. Yeah, because the fact that you're not trading doesn't mean you're kind of off trading, right?
That's right. Whereas when we finish, I close the charts. I don't care. Everything's closed. I have no worries. I sleep like a baby. And then I just wake up with the eyes of a child and say, okay, what's going on in the market?
I love that. That's a good point. Now, how do you know that you're done for the day, let's say? Is it a limit you have on your profit, or a limit only on your loss as well? Or
I don't have a limit on my profits, but I do have a limit on my losses. So, and it's a little, I don't want to say complicated, but let's just take it day by day. So if I say I'm 3 days into the week and like last week, it was a losing week for me overall, which has been the first losing week I've had in 2016. And as I came into Thursday, which was the 4th day of my trading week last week, I knew that, okay, I'm only willing to take my equity down 2% at this point because the market's been all over the place. And so once I got to that, I shut it down. I don't even try to recover. And then coming into this week was a very interesting week. Monday and Tuesday, I had losing days both days. So I come off of a losing week, but because of the risk management I use, it's not psychologically devastating, nor is it financially devastating. So I come into this week and I'm losing Monday and Tuesday. And I am getting tweets from some of my members saying I've had the worst day in a long time. And I realize they're letting their losses get really big. And I'm also looking at the markets, and I'm talking to my guy in Australia who runs the London session. And we had a conversation, and I said, you know what? I think as a group, I want to manage the risk, and I want to model how that's done, meaning I'm going to cancel the trade planning sessions for Wednesday and Thursday morning. We're going to cancel your London trade planning sessions, and we're going to ask the people take a break, retreat so that we can advance. And although I said in the email, I'm not telling you what to do and you can trade if you want to, the implication was, this is very serious. I've never canceled a trade planning session in the 3.5 years since I've been running Price Action Traders Institute. And because of the market conditions and the trading conditions right now, it's warranted. So everybody take a couple days off, have a nice weekend. We'll come back next week and see what the markets present. And it was really interesting because I did the weekly webinar yesterday and I asked, so who traded? And there was a lot of people that traded, so they didn't listen to my 16 years of experience, my, seriousness in the email about, hey, it's better to stand aside than it is, even if there's a big move, because I acknowledge there could be some big moves, but I personally would rather manage my risk. And I feel an obligation to my group of traders to model how that's done. So I want to walk the talk or talk the walk with them. So, but I've never done that before.
But I feel like this is a good point. I feel like a lot of traders will have trouble to step away from the market sometimes, right?
They do. Absolutely. Yeah. And we talked about that because I said to them, if you don't know how to take a break from trading, trading will eventually break you. And I meant it. It's like I've done it. I've seen it happen to others. And if you can't walk away, it's as if I said, you in my mind, you're like a gambler. Gamblers don't know when to say enough's enough. Gamblers keep going back. Whereas if you have some insight into yourself, you'll know that sometimes in order to advance, you have to retreat. And sometimes you have to step away to get a new perspective.
Now, how much focus do you need to day trade? Do you have to focus on the charts a lot of times, or?
Well, initially, yes, because we trade, for instance, I do trade plans for 10 pairs. And when traders first come to me, they're usually coming, they've been through a lot of other courses. They don't know, what's up or what's down. They have been used to like getting mesmerized by one trade, one chart, holding on to it. And so I'm asking them to change completely how they view the market, meaning you have to expect the unexpected, which means you have to be fluid. You have to be light on your feet. You have to be willing to say, hey, the reality of what I thought was going to happen has changed, and it's changing in front of my eyes. And you're able to respond. So a lot of traders, it feels like an intense focus initially because they're trying to grasp how they can dance with the market. As I like to say, you're kind of dancing with the market. You don't get stuck on one thing. You don't get stuck on your need to be right, because I'm sure you know or know people that they have the best analysis. They have the best indicators. Their charts tell them, yes, this trade is going to take off, and it doesn't right in front of their eyes, but they're unwilling or unable to change in that moment of reality when things are changing. So yes, in answer to your question, some people, it feels like a lot of focus. For me, it's so second nature. And the other thing too is that the way I teach, it is so simple. Yet traders can't handle simple. They want complex.
Yeah, because they're used to seeing like these indicators and charts and complicated things and like 20 screens. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you have to, I know when I first started, I had this huge setup, a custom built setup with multiple screens. It was really radical. And now I trade off of, I have two 27-inch screens, and it's so much simpler. And I've gotten rid of all the distractions. So for me, it doesn't take much focus at all. But for newer people coming into the group, it does take focus. And I don't want to minimize that for anyone that's listening. It does take focus when you first start trading this way. Mm-hmm. But the beautiful thing about it is that you're done when you're done.
Yeah,
you go and enjoy your life. You go exercise, you meet friends, you stay with you hang out with family, and you're free mentally. You're free.
Mm-hmm.
You sleep well.
Yeah. No, yeah, but this is the reason why, and I've talked about it before in the podcast or in email specifically. I've been trading like on larger time frame for a long time, but I'm kind of looking a little bit at small time frames to maybe go into, but it's something that takes time, and then you have to develop your own way and everything. So, But I like the principle for sure.
Yes, it's very fast paced, because what you're challenged with, or what most traders are challenged with when you go to, for instance, we trade only on a 15-minute chart. You're challenged with the speed, but if you think about it, 15 minutes is a long time. I mean, I get up and walk away sometimes and go out and get a breath of fresh air or get something to drink. I mean, I've got a lot of time in between maybe the time I enter a trade and say it's 5 minutes into a candle. I figure I've got at least 8 minutes. Then I will come back a couple minutes before, see if I was stopped out or what the trade's doing before the candle closes. But you're right. It's a lot faster. The other thing too is that when I used to trade, and you might do this now, trading longer time frames, is you look for confirmation on many different time frames or higher time frames. And we don't have to do that. The way I teach you is you stay on the 15-minute. You don't jump around. You don't need a 1 minute, a 5 minute, a 3 minute. You don't need an hour. You don't need a 4 hour. You don't need 30 minutes. Because I've found that traders get so overwhelmed with the number of decisions and data points that they have to process when you have to look at different time frames, that you can't just make a clear and direct decision. So by staying on one time frame, and again, we use the 15-minute, you're much more likely and able to be able to make decisions quickly and on the fly.
That's a good point. Yeah. I like the confirmation aspect, but yeah, it's definitely a good point to look only on one chart when you can. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But see, think about the confirmation aspect though, and this is just based on my own experience. I used to look for confirmation to give me that feeling of security that I was right, whereas in my group, I'm asking everybody to let go of the security and let go of the need to be right. Because if you cannot let go of the need to be right, and you may not even know it, conscious or subconsciously, it may be occurring for you. If you can't let go of the need to be right, then you will never be proficient at making decisions that are in your best interest as trades or currencies move the way they move. So it's a completely different way of looking at it.
Yeah, I think some strategies need the different time frame, while others don't need it. That's totally true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna guess that the pairs you follow when you analyze are probably the major ones, right?
Yes, the major ones. So, for instance, we plan for and trade the euro yen, the pound dollar, the pound yen, Australian dollar, Australian yen, dollar yen, Canadian yen, and did I say the dollar CAD, and the New Zealand? Yeah. So those 10. And I've changed those. So, for instance, we used to trade the pound CAD and the pound Australian, and we eliminated those as a group because the spreads and the volatility in those pairs we were getting just stopped out too quickly, so we completely eliminated. We replaced those with the Euro Australian and the Euro CAD. And then in the last 6 months, we found that the same thing was happening. So we nuked those and added the CAD yen and the New Zealand dollar in to replace them.
And so I suppose you look at all of these 10 pairs, but you don't, do you trade them like every single day, or do you have some that you watch for some days? And
well, it's like you have a menu in front of you, and depending on what the chef's special is or what the market's actually doing, you actually trade. So in the trade planning session, there's a trade plan for each one of those 10 pair. And the trade plans are very simple and they're very straightforward. So now it depends on, is the market going to move for us to execute on the plan? And are you going to be willing, able, and ready to execute when the market moves? So for instance, my max open positions at one time is 6 pairs. I will have sometimes 6 trades open at one time. So the other 4 might be moving and ready and firing off execution signals, but I won't take them because I'm at my limit mentally as to how many pairs I can manage at one time.
And how many trade do you take on average per day or per week, let's say?
Well, it depends. Some days it's 4 and some days it's 18.
Okay.
Because I teach traders also how to recovery trade, because you might get stopped out on some weird spike, but then there's opportunities to get back into a move. And so I teach traders how to recover. I also am a big proponent, not only with using small stops, but I recommend everyone uses small leverage. I use myself personally, I trade at 0.5%. And I recommend traders use 1/4 to 0.5% risk per trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is something I guess you do when you day trade, right? Because you don't want to go too high.
That's right. Because also too, it's not only that the percent, I mean, you can have, for instance, a long-term trader who trades 0.5% spread over 100 pip stop loss. Mm-hmm. And I'm trading at 0.5%, on the euro, I trade with an 8 pip stop loss. So I might get stopped out on my euro trade and lose my 0.5%. But then I can get back in the market, and all I need to do to make up that 0.5% is get a trade that books 8 pips or more. Whereas the guy or gal who's holding a trade at 0.5% and using 100 pip stop, they're waiting, maybe 2 days go by, and finally, their stops hit. Now, in order for them to recover, they have to get into a winning trade of at least 100 pips plus covering their costs of the transaction. So for me, it's a lot easier psychologically and financially to overcome the same risk amount, but it's spread over a much tighter stop.
That's true. No, it's good to get different perspective
mm-hmm.
on things.
Yeah, everybody has. I've traded both ways. I mean, I've traded every way, obviously, in 16 years.
And yeah, so the important part is that this is the way that worked for you. So
yeah, because I want to sleep at night.
Okay.
Seriously, and and honestly, I have other things to do in my life besides trading. So, I'm interested in many things. Trading happens to be one of them. I run a trading training business. That's another. But I also have a life that I love. And that's why I trade too. It's to live the lifestyle I have. And I don't want my lifestyle to be trading like it used to be. It consumed me.
I definitely want to talk about your lifestyle after, but I want to talk about the word now that I'm really passionate about, and this is simplicity. I think you mentioned it a few times.
Yes.
But what does that mean for you to be simple?
It means to eliminate distractions. It means to eliminate perfectionism. Like perfectionism is the enemy of profits. If you have to have everything lining up on this time frame, that time frame, instead of just getting in there and doing instead of studying, thinking about it, talking about it, analyzing it. So simplicity is getting rid of distractions and being very direct, not convoluted, very direct.
Mm-hmm. And can you give us an example of what that would look like as a price action trader?
Yeah, sure, I can. In the way we plan in the morning, it's a simple process. And the process is based on 3 questions. What did price do overnight? Where is price now? And what do I need to see price do to execute a trade? Each one of those questions has 2 answers only. So the first one, what did price do overnight? It's either it's in a clear directional move, meaning you can look at the chart and say, oh, price has been moving in an uptrend, if you will. I don't like to use the word trend, but most people understand that. Or, oh, it's ranging. It's been ranging. It really hasn't gone anywhere. So there's your 2 answers. And then, depending on how you answer that first question, it's simple. If it's ranging, we do this. And if it's in a clear directional move, we do this. Simple.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds a lot simpler than a lot of things I hear about. So that's good. That's really good. Perfect. So let's talk about your lifestyle now. What is your lifestyle today?
Well, I live in the wine country, Napa Valley, right outside of San Francisco. I lived in San Francisco for about the last 6 years, and then the last couple of years I've lived out here in the wine country, which is breathtakingly beautiful. It's a very relaxed lifestyle, yet I still have access to an urban location, which I love. In fact, I'm going into the city this weekend. But my lifestyle is I have a good social life. I like to read. I like to eat well and drink fine wines on the weekend. And exercise. So health, lifestyle, I think all that's a good balance that I like to maintain. I love working with my traders. So I do answer emails at night sometimes. And on the weekends, I pretty much go dark on both social media and email. I believe in taking those breaks so that I always stay fresh and cutting edge with what I do.
That's great. It sounds like a good lifestyle for sure. Now, another question is, what do you see your students make as like the number one mistake?
The number one mistake I think I would have to say is trying to make things complicated. Trying to make things more complicated than they have to be. And not letting go of some of their past.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I guess like a lot of people who went through different courses probably want to look for confirmation with indicators, right?
That's right.
Supposing that's common.
And it's very common. They'll send me their charts to have me analyze some of their trades for them after the fact. And they'll have their indicators on there. And I don't say anything. I realize that it's a process to let go. That some people are willing to, they're at a point where they just go, this isn't working the way I'm doing it. They understand that, they get it, and they say, you know what, to heck with it. I'm ditching all the indicators. I'm going to trust what she says, and I'm going to put myself into it. And then there's others who don't trust me, and they have to go through what they have to go through to get where they want to go. Mm-hmm. But the great thing about, my membership is that I do have a lot of traders who have become really profitable. In fact, we just started doing on our weekly webinars, I've started interviewing some of these people so that the newer members can hear. In fact, we have actually a female trader who's scheduled on our June 15th webinar, who's from Europe, been trading 6 years before she found me and never made any money, always lost. And she has a full-time job. She's an executive, but yet she trades about two days a week, and she's making money for the first time. And she's never been profitable for 6 years. So she's going to come on and talk. We had a guy last month who had been trading for 14 years, almost as long as I have been. And he never made a dime, lost a ton of money, went into the old, I'm going to develop an EA and I'm going to, develop a robot. He fell down that whole rabbit hole, spent a ton of money, took a ton of courses, never made a dime, found me a year ago. And he sent me an email a few months back just saying, wow, I have to pinch myself sometimes because I actually make money. I trusted you and I am now managing money. So we had him on to talk to the membership.
And how long does the learning curve looks like? Is it a few years or a few months on average?
No, it can be a few months, actually. It depends on the person, of course, and depends on how resistant they are. And they may not even know they're resistant. But for instance, some of my members have been with me for 3.5 years, and they stay because of the community, if you will. They stay because of the group. And they're very good traders. And then there's others, the average trader comes in, and I'm going to say they will come in 4 to 6 months. I just had a member email me this morning. He's here in Northern California, and he said, Kim, I've never learned so much from someone who teaches trading. And I got to tell you, it's priceless for me. I've been with you for 4 months. I'm going to go ahead and take a break over the summer. But if I need a tune-up, I will definitely come back. You are head and shoulders above most trainers out there. So he's the average. 4 to 6 months, they get what they need, and they're on their own.
Interesting. Now, what are your goals for the future?
Well, right now, we're in the middle of, well, hopefully a little further along than the middle. I shouldn't say the middle. We're near the ending of a complete website redesign and a complete new members area. So my goal is to really be different. I have been different than most trainers out there and mentors, and to bring the best to my members in a way that really helps them excel in it and achieve what they want to with trading. So I think the future is to get more traders who are interested in this lifestyle that we offer, which is simplicity, sleep well at night, doesn't want trading to consume their lives, doesn't feel the need to study constantly. Because let's be honest, when all you do is study, you're not doing anything. You're not making money. You're not getting in the market and having the experience that happens when you actually trade, which is very psychological. So I want people that come through here to feel like they're really taken care of. So I want to create that type of environment for traders. And I think I have, but I want to take it up a notch. And I'm not really sure what that will look like, but we offer something that no one really offers.
So give yourself a plug on how people can find you.
Oh, sure. Well, they can find me at Price Action Kim on Twitter, or they can go to my website, priceactiontradersinstitute.com, and find me there. And I have a lot of videos on there on some of the live trades and me managing trades, so traders get somewhat of a sense. And again, that website is 3.5 years old. I had no idea what I was doing when that website went up, so it's a piece of junk, in my opinion. I just knew that I had this whole, crowd of people that were clamoring for me to train them. And so I just got busy and started doing the work of training and didn't worry about the website. But now it's time I've recently redone all the training modules. So there's going to be all new material in a much more organized structure for new members as they come in to onboard them into the process. And so forgive my website. It's kind of a piece of junk right now. Mm-hmm. So that's how people can find me.
Cool. So just want to remind the listeners that all the links are going to be on desiretrade.com. So we'll have everything there, the links to your website, links to your Twitter and everything we talked about today. And so, Kim, I'm going to have one last question for you, which is, if you could give only one sentence of advice for traders, what would that one sentence of advice be?
Let's see. Keep it simple.
That's simple. I love it. It's awesome.
That's all. Seriously.
Cool. So Kim Krompass, thanks so much for being on the podcast. It's been a pleasure to have you here. I think people will have a lot of value, a lot of things to work on, probably be more simple. And yeah, that was great.
Thank you, Etienne. I appreciate you having me on, and thank you to all your listeners.
All right, so that's about it from the interview with Kim Krompass. I hope you enjoyed the show. Main takeaways of the podcast this week is really about making things simple. I think the message is clear. I don't think the goal is to put indicators away necessarily. I think if you are fun with using them, keep using them. If you know how to use indicators, use them. But don't rely only on that, and don't make systems that are complicated as hell. You want to make things simple, and you want to make sure that you understand what you're doing. Because the worst thing you can do is to be lost in your trading, to be lost in your strategy. And definitely go back on the podcast about trading plan, and make sure you have a plan whenever you trade. Kim mentioned it, the fact that she's planning every single morning, that's crucial. You want to apply that for yourself. So I hope you guys liked the interview. If you've enjoyed the podcast so far, I would love if you can leave a review. Reviews are helping a lot, not only for me, but to help the podcast grow and to help more people be aware of the podcast. The more people are aware, the bigger the impact we can make together on other traders. So that's the goal. And if you're not in the Facebook group, check out desirettotrade.com/group and you'll be redirected to the Facebook group. That's a good place to network with me, connect with me, let me know how you're doing, and I'll do my best to help you out. On that note, I look forward to see you in the next episode.